Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right in Feng Shui? You bought the symbols, you followed the guides, you even placed that cute little Buddha on the shelf, just like the internet said. And then something weird happened. The energy didn't lift. It didn't feel lucky. It didn't feel peaceful. It just felt quiet, heavy, like joy went somewhere else. That's what happened to Jessica. She wasn't trying to mess anything up. She loved her space. She just wanted a little extra flow, maybe some money luck, maybe that soft kind of calm you hope for when you walk in the door. But instead of flow, she got fog. Instead of peace, she got pressure. And all of it started with one gift. A statue she didn't even choose. If this kind of wisdom speaks to you, if you've ever tried to feng shui your way to wealth, clarity, or peace, but still felt off balance, thank you for being here. Feel free to hit like, subscribe, or even drop a comment below. It helps YouTube know you're part of this quiet shift. Now come on in. Let's walk with Jessica and see how one little Buddha started a shift in everything. Some symbols carry blessings, but if we place them without awareness, they just sit there. And sometimes they quietly pull the energy down with them. The first time Jessica set up her entryway, she just wanted it to feel welcoming. Simple, clean, a bit of warmth to come home to. She had a small wooden cabinet near the door where she kept her shoes. On top of it, she placed a few small things, a plant, her keys, and that shiny laughing Buddha statue her friend gave her when she moved in. It looked cheerful, gold, smiling. Felt like it was saying, hey, good vibes only. But over time, the entryway didn't feel good anymore. It felt crowded, uneasy, like something was sitting there holding its breath. Every time she took off her shoes, she felt this strange tension, like the room was too full, even when it was empty. That statue, something about it felt too quiet. Not peaceful quiet, heavy quiet, like a smile that forgot how to mean it. In Feng Shui, the entryway is the mouth of chai where all energy enters the home. It sets the tone for everything that follows. And here's the thing. Jessica didn't know she was placing the Buddha at foot level. But that's exactly where it ended, up just inches above her sneakers and sandals. In Feng Shui terms, placing sacred symbols below waist level is like whispering wealth down a drain. It reverses the energy. Instead of rising, it sinks. The flow at her front door slowed down. Unexpected bills started stacking. Neighbors stopped dropping by. Her mornings felt tight, like walking out the door was a task, not a start. It's not that the Buddha was bad. It was just placed where energy couldn't breathe. Jessica had always believed in quiet strength. She liked the idea of something watching over her home softly. Not loud, not flashy, just present. But placing the Buddha so low, it didn't feel like protection. It felt forgotten, like setting up hope to be stepped over day after day. And somehow, she started feeling like that too. Stepped over, looked past, even in her own space. She couldn't explain it to anyone. But the entryway didn't feel like hers anymore. It felt out of sync. Like the welcome energy she tried to build got replaced by something colder, quieter, disconnected. Think of it like putting a family photo on the floor. It's still meaningful, still sacred. But if it's not lifted, it loses voice. That's what happened here. Jessica unintentionally silenced her own symbol. Instead of greeting money energy at the door, she gave it nowhere to land. The space didn't say, "You're welcome here." It said, "Don't get too comfortable." Feng Shui works best when symbols are raised to support the flow, not buried under the weight of daily clutter and forgotten shoes. Later on, Jessica read something simple that made everything click. It said, "Sacred objects need respect. And in Feng Shui, respect begins with height." Placing important symbols too low tells the space this isn't important. That message goes straight into your subconscious, and it affects how you feel every time you walk by. So instead of uplift, you feel drag. Instead of energy rising, it pools around your feet, and you don't even realize you're carrying it out the door with you. One afternoon, Jessica paused by the door, really paused, and looked at how the space felt. She gently picked up the Buddha, dusted it, held it for a minute like she hadn't in months. Then she moved it, not far, just up, onto a small shelf above the cabinet facing the door. Nothing dramatic, just elevated. Then she lit a candle, not for ceremony, just to soften the air. She didn't expect anything to happen. But that night, she slept better. The hallway felt warmer, and her space felt like it exhaled. And the next morning, she walked past the statue, smiled back at it, and muttered, "Sorry for making you live next to my gym shoes." Because that's the thing about Feng Shui. It's not about perfection. It's about permission. To lift what matters, to move what doesn't, and to let your energy finally come home. Even the most powerful symbol can lose its voice if it has to compete with noise. There was a corner in Jessica's living room that she used to love. Just next to the window, soft light, gentle air. It was where the Buddha ended up after she moved it from the entryway. She thought, maybe here it'll feel more at peace. At first, the space looked intentional. But slowly, like it always happens, life crept in. A half-read book, a box of tea bags she never put back, junk mail from last week, a coffee cup that never made it to the sink. And right there in the middle of it all, the Buddha, still smiling, still golden, but buried in the kind of clutter that looks harmless, but feels like energetic static. The light still came in through the window, but the air felt thick, like it didn't know where to land. In Feng Shui, clutter is one of the biggest energy blockers. But it's not just about mess. It's about mixed messages. Sacred symbols like the laughing Buddha hold a specific vibration. Joy, abundance, uplift. But when they're surrounded by unpaid bills, random packaging, receipts, wrappers, the energy gets confused. Instead of radiating lucky flow, it gets pulled in different directions. Jessica wasn't trying to disrespect the statue, but by letting that space pile up, she unknowingly drowned its message. The energy of wealth became mixed with the energy of delay, of neglect, of "I'll deal with it later." And money responds to that. Quietly, subtly, but surely. Jessica prided herself on keeping a balanced home. Not perfect, just real. She worked, she cleaned, she rested, she tried. But this corner started bothering her. Not because it was dirty, but because it was draining. Every time she walked past it, she felt that low hum of, not loud, just constant. The kind of weight that builds from little things. The kind of pressure that makes you want to scroll your phone instead of sit still. The kind of energy that tells your nervous system, there's too much here. She didn't blame the statue, but she started to feel like even the Buddha couldn't smile through it anymore. Imagine putting a candle in a pile of laundry. It still gives off light, but you'd never notice it. And eventually, it stops mattering that it's there. That's what clutter does to energy. Symbols that are meant to shine get muffled, then muted, then forgotten. Jessica's space wasn't just disorganized. It was energetically indecisive. That corner wasn't saying wealth. It was saying, maybe later. And Feng Shui doesn't flow through maybe. Later on, Jessica read something that stuck with her. Every item in your space is either adding to your energy or draining it. There is no neutral. And in Feng Shui, that's especially true for symbolic items. If a space around them holds delay, chaos, or indecision, then that's what they absorb. She didn't need to throw anything away. She just needed to clear the space with intention. Just 3 feet around the statue. Just enough for energy to stretch. That Saturday, Jessica did one small thing. She cleared the space around the Buddha. Not the whole house. Not even the whole living room. Just that corner. She tossed the tea box, filed the mail, washed the cup, fluffed the pillow, then wiped the little shelf where the statue sat. No incense, no ritual, just respect. That evening, the light came in through the same window, but this time, it felt like it reached all the way through the room. And for the first time in a while, Jessica sat there, not to fix, not to organize, just to be. She looked at the Buddha and whispered, "Sorry for letting you hold all my leftovers." Because energy's funny like that. It doesn't ask for much, just a little space and a little care. Sometimes, Feng Shui is less about buying new things and more about clearing the way for what you already have to breathe again. Direction shapes destiny. In Feng Shui, even the way a symbol faces can pull energy toward you or quietly turn it away. Jessica once heard someone say, "Just place the Buddha where it feels calm." So she picked a spot on the bookshelf in her bedroom, tucked safely in the corner, quiet, out of the way, facing a blank wall. She didn't think much of it. There was a soft lamp nearby, a candle, a few affirmations pinned to the wall above it. But the air in the room started to feel stagnant. Sleep became shallow. Mornings felt slow. There was no clear reason, but something in that space wasn't flowing. It wasn't loud. It was the kind of drag that makes you breathe shallower. The kind of quiet that doesn't comfort, it compresses. Feng Shui teaches that direction equals invitation. Where energy points is where energy goes. By facing the Buddha toward a wall, Jessica unknowingly created an energetic stop sign. The blessing energy, the money flow, the chi, the quiet fortune, had nowhere to land. Instead of activating wealth and peaceful energy, the symbol became energetically trapped, blocked, muted. Think of it like a lighthouse turned inward. The light still shines, but no ship ever sees it. Jessica's bedroom had always been her recharge zone, a place for softness, sleep, dreaming. But something shifted, not overnight, but gradually. The room started feeling like it was holding its breath. Ideas felt foggy. Decisions felt harder. She didn't notice it at first, but slowly, That little Buddha in the corner started to feel like it was facing away from her life, away from her goals, away from everything that needed support. She wasn't just blocked in money, she was blocked in motivation. And when the place you sleep starts to feel heavy, so does everything else. Imagine trying to charge your phone with the plug facing the wrong way. Everything's there. The outlet, the cord, the phone, but the connection never clicks. That's what misdirection does to Feng Shui. It severs the signal. You can have the right symbol at the right time, with the right hope, but if it's facing away, it sends all that energy out instead of in. Jessica ended up reading a Feng Shui post that put it simply, in Feng Shui, intention flows through alignment. Direction tells the universe where to go. She learned that sacred symbols, especially ones meant for wealth, health, and peace, should face toward the center of the room or toward entry points. Never into corners, never into walls. Otherwise, they reflect the energy right back. Or worse, trap it in a loop. She didn't need a new statue. She just needed to turn it around. So one evening, after another restless nap, Jessica walked over to the bookshelf. She didn't say anything, didn't light anything, didn't play any calming music. She just turned the Buddha, gently, so it faced the room, faced her. She stepped back, took a breath. That night, she didn't sleep like a queen. She just slept, solid, quiet, no dreams, no racing. And when she woke up the next morning, the air didn't feel heavy. It felt open, like something small had moved, but something big had shifted. Sometimes, the fix isn't to remove a symbol. It's to realign its purpose. Jessica still has that same statue, same smile, same gold, just now facing the right way. And for anyone watching this right now, if something in your space feels turned the wrong way, maybe today's the day to pivot it back into alignment. If this shift spoke to you, feel free to like, subscribe, or share your thoughts in the comments. We're all just moving small things to invite in better days. The moment a sacred symbol becomes just another object is the moment its energy stops speaking and starts fading. There was a point when Jessica stopped noticing the Buddha. Not because she moved it, but because everything else around it started looking curated. There were 3 candles lined up perfectly, 2 hardcover books with the titles flipped just right, a little fake succulent she picked up from a sale rack. The shelf looked good, balanced, even Pinterest-worthy, but it didn't feel anything. Not warmth, not flow, just presentation. She didn't plan it that way. It just evolved into a corner that looked nice. But Feng Shui isn't about how something looks. It's about how something moves the room when you're not watching. And that space had gone still. In Feng Shui, symbols gain power through intention, through relationship, through recognition. But when a sacred item like the laughing Buddha becomes just part of the background, its energy begins to fade into silence. That shelf wasn't activating anything. It was staging something. And staged energy doesn't speak to wealth. It doesn't call in money, or lucky flow, or soft calm. It just sits, pretty, polished, passive. Jessica had unintentionally created a showroom chi, the kind of space that says, I've been arranged, but not, I've been lived in. And money doesn't flow through decoration. It flows through connection. Jessica had always believed in having meaning in her home. Not just objects, but stories. But something shifted over time. The house got quieter. Not peaceful, just flat. Like energy had been set on mute. Every time she walked past the shelf, it felt like something was missing. Not a thing. A feeling. She didn't realize it, but the symbol that once felt like a friend now felt like a prop. And the space around it wasn't sacred. It was showroom. And she wasn't being supported by it. She was performing for it. That's what happens when energy gets disconnected. It doesn't leave with noise. It leaves with stillness. Imagine lighting a candle every day, but never letting yourself sit beside it. It glows, but it never warms you. That's what Jessica created. An altar she didn't visit. A symbol she didn't speak to. A message that didn't have a listener anymore. Feng Shui isn't just about having symbols. It's about interacting with them. Letting them hold intention, not just occupy space. And when the connection is lost, so is the flow. Jessica found a short Feng Shui quote that cut through the fog. If you stop seeing it, it stops working for you. The nervous system responds to emotional placement, not just physical placement. When you walk by something with no energetic memory, your system tunes it out. And Feng Shui at its root is about constant, quiet communication with your space. That includes checking in with your symbols. Not worshipping, just noticing. She didn't need to redecorate. She needed to remember why it was there, what it meant, and who she was when she first placed it. So on a quiet morning, Jessica did something small. She took everything off the shelf. Not to throw it away, just to reset the conversation. The fake plant went. The 2 perfect books got moved to the coffee table. The shelf was empty, except for the Buddha. She wiped it, turned it slightly to face the room more openly. And instead of adding more, she added less. Just a small wooden bowl beneath it, with nothing inside, just space. To catch energy, to give it somewhere to land. And suddenly, that corner didn't look good. It felt right. The kind of quiet that holds you, not hides from you. The kind of space where energy says, I'm ready to flow again. And when she passed by the shelf later that day, she smiled not at how it looked, but at the fact she finally noticed it again. Because in Feng Shui, attention is activation, and meaning is money's favorite magnet. Sometimes the trick isn't to add more. It's to strip things back, until what matters is the only thing left speaking. Not all light is healing. In Feng Shui, even brightness, if too harsh, too sharp, too cold, can cast a shadow on the very energy you're trying to lift. There was one thing Jessica never really noticed: how the Buddha looked at night. The soft lamp on her shelf had been swapped out months ago. Burned out, replaced by a cheap overhead bulb, bright, cold, convenience store white. It did the job. Lit the room. No big deal. But somewhere between the tasks and the tired nights, something in that corner shifted. Not physically, energetically. Instead of feeling warm, the Buddha looked stark, washed out, almost haunted. The soft smile turned hollow under that light, like something had been exposed that was never meant to be. Like energy was being lit up in all the wrong ways. In Feng Shui, lighting is not just about seeing. It's about how energy is activated. Soft light supports flow. Harsh light fractures it. When sacred symbols like the Buddha are hit with direct, cold, overhead lighting, the energy around them becomes rigid. sharp, unsettled. Instead of radiating wealth and clarity, the space starts bouncing light off surfaces in jarring directions. The chi doesn't move, it ricochets. And when that happens in a home, especially near symbols meant to hold calm and abundance, it begins to do the opposite. Instead of drawing in lucky flow, it pushes energy away. Jessica didn't feel peaceful in that room anymore. Not in the evening. Not when the lamp flicked on. Not when shadows climbed the wall. There was no warmth, just exposure. No welcome, just glare. That corner became something to pass by, not sit beside. Something to avoid turning toward, even without knowing why. She didn't feel blessed. She felt drained. And the last place she ever thought would make her feel like that was the one that used to hold her quiet. When even a sacred symbol feels sharp to the eyes, it won't soften the soul. It's like playing calming music on broken speakers. The song is still the same, but the delivery turns it from soothing to stressful. That's what happened with the Buddha under that light. It wasn't the statue. It wasn't the meaning. It was the tone being warped. Energy is not just about objects. It's about the environment they're placed in. And if the environment speaks tension, then even the most sacred piece will start echoing it. Jessica came across a line in a Feng Shui guide that landed hard. Lighting holds temperature, and temperature speaks to your nervous system. Harsh lighting tells the body to stay alert. Soft lighting invites the body to rest, receive, and realign. In Feng Shui, symbols placed under cold, sharp light create a yang overload. Too active, too exposed, too hard. She didn't need a designer lamp. She needed a shift in how the light landed. Indirect, soft, intentional. The kind of lighting that whispers, "You're safe to soften here." That night, Jessica made one small shift. She unplugged the overhead bulb, grabbed the forgotten lamp in her hallway closet, screwed in a warm 2700K bulb. Frosted glass, dimmed. No chanting, no incense. Just a small act of realignment. She turned the light on and waited. Nothing big happened. But the Buddha felt like it was smiling again. Not at her, but with her. The shelf softened, the shadows eased, and the room finally felt like it knew what time it was. Night, stillness, peace. And as she walked out of the room to brush her teeth, she glanced back and whispered, "You don't have to glow like a hospital anymore." Because sometimes the real Feng Shui fix isn't about moving the object. It's about changing the way light meets it. Let the warmth do the work. Let softness be your strongest form of flow. Because wealth doesn't shout, it glows. Jessica didn't remove the Buddha. She didn't throw anything out. She didn't start over. She simply listened, adjusted, reconnected. Because sometimes Feng Shui isn't about doing more. It's about meaning what you've already done. It's about placing energy where it can speak, not just sit. That one statue didn't curse her space, but how she treated it, where it sat, what surrounded it, how it was lit, that told the story. And energy, money, wealth, they all read that story, whether we realize it or not. So if something in your space feels off, too quiet, too sharp, too drained, you're not crazy. You're just hearing what the chi has been trying to whisper. The flow doesn't stop when the video ends. It continues through every symbol, every corner, every moment you start to see clearly again. There's more in this journey. More Feng Shui mistakes that seem small, but block lucky flow quiet cash or misguide the wealth energy trying to find you. Keep walking with Jessica. In the next episode, she faces the red coin rope mistake, a simple string of tied coins placed at her door that turned her entire home's energy cold. Watch it now. Let your space speak again. Because wealth isn't always loud. But when the energy's right, you feel it. Your space speaks. Wisdom listens.